Unsustainable development is threatening the natural landscape here in Indonesia, and it's really difficult to watch how this beautiful landscape is turning into a concrete jungle day by day. We're here at Mawi Valley, where we're building a fully sustainable development, and we're here with the Saifana Group, who are going to be doing our reforestation program, as well as putting together our permaculture protocols. William Renault from Saifana Group is going to be taking us through the steps and the phases that he's going to be putting together to help us reforest this beautiful land. Sure, well, tell us a little bit about Saifana and the farm up in the north.
Sure. So we're a small farm of about 1 hectare, and we specialize in regenerative agriculture. We're in an area that is extremely dry, that has water only 3 months a year. So the rest of the year, it's just nonstop full sun. And so we had to find different methods to be able to farm in this sandy soil that doesn't hold much water. So that's about where we started thinking about different principles and different techniques to be able to get the soil to hold as much water and have as much nutrients as possible.
That's amazing. And tell us about your approach to Mawi Valley and what you see within this valley and the stages and the phases that you've put in place to regenerate the reforestation program.
So from what I see on this valley is that this used to be an area that was pretty well covered with big trees and canopy. But I believe that in this zone, there's been a lot of deforestation, and the tree have been used for different purposes, but it hasn't been planted back. And I think that's the main issue on this valley. So the goal is actually to do a reforestation program, planting local trees and endemic trees from the region to bring back the original fauna. This will allow for the trees to adapt very quickly to the scenery. And once we get to have a canopy that's fairly thick, we're able to plant fruit trees on the bottom and species that are, let's say, a bit more sensitive. The idea is to plant all of these trees on the bottom area of the land where it accumulates the most water. This will allow us to capture the maximum water for the second half of the dry season and allow for the trees to be able to adapt on the long term.
And what type of time limit does this whole process take usually?
So we're going to start off with a lot of pioneer trees, and those trees are able to adapt in the span of one rainy season only. And those are the trees that will actually shelter the bigger trees that we call secondary or primary trees that we hope to last 40 to 60 plus years. The time frame to be able to plant a small zone in the bottom of the land of about 1 hectare, we say small on a big project, but it's actually fairly big, is about 3 months to be able to clear some of the bushes and use them as mulch and be able to plant all the seedlings and trees that we have to implement.
For those developers out there who want to do reforestation programs in their land, if they're considering to do it, what are the kinds of things that they should look out for when considering doing reforestation on their land?
So the first thing that we're looking for when we're surveying a land is the endemic tree species that are already on site. So in this area, there's a lot of acacia, a lot of banten trees, which are an endemic tree to Lombok that they use as fencing. There's a lot of sengon, which is a really big tree that is used to be able to fix nitrogen into the soil, to regenerate the soil. So the goal is just to actually see what seeds are on the ground, what trees are actually big of size that have lasted the test of time, the seasons. And so after that, we're able to see regarding the soil, if it's more clay soil or if it's more sandy and loamy soil, and adapt the seedlings accordingly. We also do a lot of testing in the sense that we plant many different kind of seeds that are also not adapted to the area in terms of seedling growth, but that we want to have on the long term on the plots, right? That way we can see what is actually adapted to the area.
And once the reforestation takes place and the fauna is back in place, what will happen to the birds, the insects, and those kinds of things?
So in general, what happens is that you see native animals start coming back. Here we're talking to the locals to kind of figure out what were the native animals and what is still here. And apparently there's a lot of wild boars that are still roaming around this scenery. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of birds. There's actually a native chicken that actually roam in the forest normally. So we're going to see them come back progressively if they're not completely extinct from the area. But the general vibe is that you will have a lot of birds coming back to get some seeds from the pods that we're planting, from all the beans. And they will start to make this place their safe haven, basically.
That's lovely. We're excited for those birds to return.
Yeah, it's a beautiful sound in the morning.
And with regards to the strategy, so we've got a green area down at the bottom of the land that we're focusing on first. Can you touch on those phases to your approach that we're doing in the valley?
Sure, of course. So the first phase basically is what we call the reforestation program. It's all about getting shade back into the territory. Right now we see the whole space is fairly green, but there's a lot of bushes that we will see, and those will only cover the ground. It's not ever going to give shade at a certain height, like 4 to 6 meters up. And that's what we want to be able to plant smaller seedlings on the bottom. Right now, the bushes are occupying the smaller seedlings zone, right? Once we're able to do that, we can start implementing a lot of more edible crops, whether it's fruit trees or vegetables, beans. It's what we want to implement to be able to start feeding the community around, right? I think that's one of the main goals. And we will start to set up a full nursery on site to be able to get everything coming directly from the site.
Amazing. Farm to table.
That's the goal.
So there's a lot of reforestation programs out there where they're just going in and they're planting a whole lot of seedlings, and it's not really that effective. Can you touch on the difference between this reforestation programs and the usual ones that we see out there that aren't that successful?
Sure, of course. So basically, a lot of these reforestation programs, the idea is to plant as many seedlings as possible. It's often government-based, and they have huge teams coming in and planting 20, 30,000 trees in a certain location. But for us, the goal is to be able to plant these seedlings, but have a sort of canopy, a sort of shade that we can bring in so that these trees don't tire out during one planting season. So we plant other pioneer trees from seeds that will grow a little higher than these smaller seedlings that we're planting, and they will shade out basically like a small umbrella. So that allows to have a protection that is naturally based. And as the tree seedlings grow a bit taller and they compete in the same strata, so the same height, that's when we remove the pioneer trees, we put them back on the ground to be able to feed basically the seedlings that we want to grow to become a full tree. So it's all about playing with nature, planting the right things to be able to feed your main crop, let's say, so the tree that you want to have on the long term.
Yeah, and you've done some extensive planning with regards to planting on the contour, specific trees spaced out at a certain distance. Can you touch on those kind of details for people?
Sure. So when we're planting for reforestation, our goal is to keep as much water on the line of trees that we're planting. So we're planting on contour to be able to create mini swales to capture water and be able to feed our trees specifically as much water from the rainy season as we can. The water will be kept on the swale, and then it will infiltrate down into the ground, creating a reservoir for the trees to be able to tap their roots in. So that's one of the main goals of planting on contour.
Well, thank you so much for your time and spending time with us here on the land in the hot sun. We really do appreciate all the help you're giving us with the reforestation and with our permaculture. And we look forward to bringing this into fruition.